tape the trail.
Oh, no, this,
Oh, okay.
I have no idea. Is that legal, Brian?
What's that again?
Is that legal, whatever that is?
Yes. Right per the state law.
Look at the little mini stand.
They think it's cute, Brian.
Kind of hard to prevent. Oh,
We haven't pledged allegiance to it. Whether we're ready for we practically have waivers nowadays.
It's actually kind of nice. That was cold. I was inside the house.
For trees, the leaves, and the lights.
So guys, folks, just,
I take pictures.
Hey, Erica, when's PSATs?
This week.
Oh, it is this week?
Yeah,
that's what I thought.
it is.
last month.
Yeah, Brian's there, actually.
Brian?
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was-
And Michelle went
I'll show
yesterday.
you what I went to one. My duty.
I went to work today.
I was never
She
used to
stayed
those
home
conferences.
when we moved into the apartment. So, you know, I don't know if she's had time. She hasn't even had time to yell at me yet.
We gotta move more often, Jane.
Yeah, I'm ready. Let's go, folks. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance.
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for coming on this beautiful evening.
March day.
It's a little bit of work. First, we're going to call the meeting to order, and I need a motion to approve the minutes from the April 1st meeting.
I move to approve the minutes from April 1st, 2019 as submitted.
A second motion. Any comments from the audience? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Let's see, number 2 would be the police report.
Good evening. During the month of March, the police department had 140 calls for service, investigated 9 crimes, had 1 arrest, 12 traffic stops, and investigated 9 accidents. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mike?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Have a good evening. Next is Parks and Recreation Commission, Brinko Trail presentation. Oh, yeah, folks, you gotta forgive me, I'm not that bright, and I make the same mistake over and over
You
and
just
over
don't want to
again.
face the bills.
Hey, why don't you tell me the bills list, you know?
Yeah, all right.
Okay, let's do the bills list. Is there a motion?
No,
What do you
you
want
always
me to
read,
say?
you always read the building summary first.
Township
and I do.
Township bills list is $77,145.96. The reimbursable bills list is $10,174.61. The subdivision utility plant bills list is $22,979.55. The reimbursable escrow release is $117,660. All 4 bills list total $227,960.12.
I move to approve the bills list dated April 15, 2019, in the total amount of $227,960.12.
I'll second the motion. Any comments from the audience? John?
One thing I noticed on, it says Janie Lane, $7,000. We spent like $12,000 on engineering last year. Is any of that getting transferred over to this current job? Just seems like a lot more money.
Oh, Janie Lane, we have conducted survey and we have preliminary design complete for the first phase of paving. So we'll be having a meeting to coordinate with some property owners on a few issues and hopefully get that on track this year.
I also noticed, I guess for the first time, there's a word called capital that precedes some of these sentences. Does that mean it comes out of the capital budget versus
Yes.
the general fund budget? You think it would be appropriate to put those together?
What do you mean?
Well, if, add the capital and take it out of the capital budget, the general fund expenses out of the general fund, I think,
Well, they are. I mean, that's why she puts it this way, so that she knows where to take the money from.
okay. I was thinking there's a total of 77,000, it's at 70,000
I see what
general
you're
fund.
saying. You mean,
10,000
what
capital.
John reads, those totals in the beginning? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
because eventually, you're gonna have, you know, $500,000, it's gonna just overshadow your general fund, I presume, when some of these expenses come in, like for Janie Lane. Just a suggestion. That's all.
Brian?
First, I asked a series of questions to Eric before the meeting, and she very nicely went and responded to a lot of them. This is an elaboration on one of them. The Martin paving, the road sweeping, you mentioned that it covers all developments. How about like the other non-development roads, like Horseshoe Trail or something, does it also cover them?
No, we're going to look at that for next year. We've done the subdivisions, but we could even do it this year probably as well. It's only a few $1,000, so I'm looking at that.
Okay, thank you. It would seem that, you know, all the roads
I know.
probably get the same amount of, I'm gonna say,
Yeah.
snow trash or winter
Sure.
trash on them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Yes.
Yeah, I just have a question of curiosity. On page 3, towards the bottom, under occupational health, it says employee testing, $952. What are we testing for?
This is part of a background review for a potential hire, and it's a little more extensive for that hire, being the police department.
Okay,
Thank you.
Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Next, I believe we have, if I got this right, Parks and Recreation Commission trail presentation. Is that you, Bill? You getting tired of talking about this trail?
Almost done. Almost done. Don't have any big graphics printed up. Oh, good. Yeah, we have Eric printed these, I believe.
Yes.
I think that's about the same size. Let me go through the beginning of it.
Which one, can you pass those out?
If anybody wants one of the, anybody interested in the trails,
Why don't you pass them on?
those two.
Everybody interested.
I have a
I
copy.
think that's true. Well, there's
Yeah,
plenty
I
to
have multiple copies.
We're gonna come back
Let's
around.
go to line, that doesn't make it.
I can see all the That's right, it shows the kids.
If anybody didn't get a copy that wanted one, I could email it to you. I've got it instantly. Okay, gonna back up for where we started with Bryn Coed. The original goals of the park, one was to provide equestrian pedestrian connections to the Natural Lands Trust trails. That was by the agreement we made with the Natural Lands Trust. We were also had to provide horse trailer parking, again, by the agreement that we did. We also wanted to provide for public recreation and also have the park as a hub for special events. That was what we discussed initially in the Park and Rec as our primary goals for the park. The trail map that some of you have, the blue trail you see on there is about a 6 to 8 foot wide crushed stone trail. That will be pedestrian and equestrian. That provides access to trailer parking It will also provide 3 connections to the Natural Lands Trust trails. Only one of those is open right now because the Natural Lands Trust only has one open. We did connect to that, but the other 2 are basically not in the township's hands. That's in Natural Lands Trust. Whenever they provide the connector, we will connect. We're to where we should be to connect, so all we have to do is open it. The Green Loop is the next one. It's going to connect to the parking area. You see a small, I think, white section in there. And basically loops the perimeter of the property. We pulled in from the perimeter in a number of locations where we felt we were coming close to residents' houses, where we had line of sight issues directly into residents. If anybody's got the map, I think I annotated, yes, the orange triangles is where, when Mike and I initially did the walk around, we had kind of a line of sight issue with neighbors' houses. So we don't want it to be a bad thing for those neighbors. It really didn't affect the trail. The orange you see on there will be, again, I guess I should say that well, let me go ahead with the orange. The orange is the same kind of trail. It's a cut-across trail, and that's so that we can get multiple lengths for the loops. Instead of just having one loop of 2-something miles, we can get a half a mile, 2 miles, 2.5, loop through the middle as well. All of that, the green, orange, and white on there, will be 18 inches, about 2 hand widths, compacted soil trail, which is known as single track. It's what you see out at Marsh Creek, it's what you see up at French Creek. About 80 or 90% of the trails are considered single track up there. We're also holding to the original DCNR of requirements of 10% grade and less than 50% slope angle, which is a fancy way of saying can't go downhill too fast. You've got to cut across a hillside. Basically, this eliminates soil erosion off of the surface of the trail. Those are both sustained. We can exceed those for short periods, or do exceed those for short periods of time. The Blue Trail is primarily installed at this point. We're utilizing mostly the farm access trails that were already on the property, so we overlaid over there, and we have a few places where we may need some remediation. The green, orange, and white, which is the parking lot access, are all going to be created, we are hoping, by the West Vincent Volunteer Trail Crew. I managed for 10 years the DCNR's trail crew at Marsh Creek and up at French Creek for this region, actually. And that is all done, believe it or not. All of the state's parks are maintained by volunteers. So we're hoping to get a number of people who want to go out a couple of weekends. Should only be, we try to keep them about 4 or 5 hours because you just can't work that long on putting a trail in. Our timeline at this point to get everything ready is, I'm not going to go through the entire thing. We've got to clear and tree flag the trail, which is not a corridor clearing. It's basically just clearing enough to walk through the trail so that people could see where it is. Then from there, we will go to a corridor clearing, which I don't guess anybody's seen a trail that's been corridor cleared, but basically we're clearing about a 6-foot to 8 by 8 foot corridor through the woods because we don't want the vegetation up on the edges of the trails. I don't know who's aware of how ticks move, but they climb up on the edge of plants and put their little feelers out, and if you brush up against it, you'll pick it up. So we try to keep the vegetation away from the edges of this loop. From there, we'll go in with ground flags, like you see for the underground dog fences. Ground tags will actually tag out where the trail's going and then clear it from there. The difficult things are going to be, obviously, be the corridor clearing a 6-foot wide path, 2 miles around that loop. I'm approximating 20 to 30 hours, volunteer hours out of that, which I estimate we should probably, hopefully we get a good turnout, be able to do in 2 weekends, you know, two day, single days on the weekend, like a Saturday or a Sunday. We get enough turnout. I'm hoping that I get a dozen, 18 people to turn out. Trail flagging takes no time. The construction, which is basically clearing the tread, we've got to clear all of the debris off the top, or about 20 inches for the 18-inch tread. And we also are going to have to actually cut some, what are known as bench cuts, trail that runs laterally to the hillside, which is the recommended direction. You can't run downhill, otherwise you get eroded. It requires a bench, a seat on the side, so that you can walk on a flat trail. You only want about 6 degrees of outslope on a trail. That will take some time. I'm estimating at about 4 weekends to get that done. I have that at about 50 to 60 hours of work to get the benches and the debris cleared off the floor. We also have the possibility of doing some bog bridging. I don't suppose you printed that bog bridge picture. I don't know who knows what a bog bridge looks like. That one, yeah. Bog bridge is basically a bridge that's about 8 to 10 inches off the ground, normally 18 to 24 inches wide, and that is to clear drainage or soggy ground. And we have on the southeast end of the park, we have some major drainage coming off of the hillside. I don't know who's familiar with Bryn Coed at all, nobody. Back behind the barns where the silos are, we've got major hill drainage back there. So we've got big drainage fields. It was very wet when I did this. It wasn't bad last fall. It was very wet when I did the survey this spring. So I'm thinking if we want to have a 4-season trail, we are going to have to lift a few sections in there to keep them out of the mud. I do not want a muddy trail. We are draining into the Pickering there, and I do not want any sediment getting into the Pickering. So we may have another weekend with people who are carpentry handy to possibly do a bridge over a erosion drainage ditch, basically, and also some bog bridging. I've got the supervisors have that you don't. Let me see if I can get it up here. I did off of my GIS system, I did a radar image, ground radar, which sees through trees and I don't know who can see it, but there's a building. We've got 2 steep slope issues, one up here, which you see in dark, and one here. One runs around the perimeter of the building, the other one's on a hillside, adjacent to where the road comes in and comes around the building there. I don't think we're going to be able to remediate either one of them because there would be some major, unless there's something in the plan that I don't know about with the engineer. However, I feel like the one doesn't really need remediation at all. That would be the one up by the building where the driveway goes around, which would be in the eastern side, left to you guys. Because it's got a lot of trees and brush on it now. I don't think there's anything going anywhere. The other one is a little more troublesome for me. It is about 40 or 50 feet down, and it is over 100% grade. I took a couple of theodolite shots down there. It is really steep. It's either going to have to be remediated or fenced, because where that is once we clear the buildings, it's basically that far edge of the buildings. Once we clear the buildings, that's going to be the park area. I don't want kids going off that, because if you get down it, it's pretty hard to not tumble down that slope.
You're talking about where the old composting shed was?
Yep. That's it exactly, that whole ridge along that side. It drains down. That's actually what's creating some of the drainage problems in that lower field down by the silos, is that steep slope there. the water just runs straight down there. But that's basically the only large problems, other than the buildings, which, you know, are gonna have to be removed. But that's the only big problem I see is that one steep slope issue. So we've got about 6 to 8 weeks after we say go. I have not marked anything or cut anything over there. I did all the surveying I just tromped through the woods. Did want to say we discussed, because Sarah had brought up, cutting through the woods or allowing free roaming through the woods, and we discussed it at Park and Rec, and none of us feel like that's really a good idea. We are so close to private property, it's not well marked around the perimeter. As a matter of fact, Mike and I, when we did the survey, we strayed onto private property without even realizing, thinking we were staying on our property. So I don't think I think we ought to, I'm going on script here. I definitely think we ought to stay on the trails. That's not unusual, we do it in all the state parks. You're not allowed to wander the woods. For multiple reasons. A, could be damaging to the woods around them. And B, you can easily wander onto private property there. As a matter of fact, one of the landowners there, whose driveway is Bryn Coed Drive, expressed concern that people would wander onto his driveway and begin to use that for a trail. So, if anybody has any questions.
Excuse me, how would we handle that? I mean, it really isn't a board issue, is it? Could we make that a manager's issue and make rules and regulations for the park or the trails?
Sure, just want to dump it on the manager.
Rules and regs, that's my thing. That's good.
Yeah, I think just a stated park rule.
Yeah.
I assume we're gonna have to come up with, I'm sure no alcohol is a rule.
Really?
That sucks.
Okay, well, then it's not. Then it's not a rule.
board issue. That's a board issue.
But yeah, just that was a recommended rule that we talked about but never made a presentation to the board for. So I was thinking about the proximity of the trail to the outer boundaries of the park while I was doing this, and I thought we ought to mention that we didn't think it was a good idea to allow people to stray off the trail. Except on grass, you know, except in the meadows, obviously. There's any questions about timeline or where we're going or what we're doing or?
Have
When are you-
volunteers.
Yeah, any volunteers? Erica's gonna be heading up our volunteer trail group expert. So.
Do you have a timeline of when you want to start?
I could start any time. From the word go, it's gonna take 6 to 8 weeks.
Right, but
If-
for clearing, wouldn't it be the easiest right now?
Yeah,
Before it starts growing in, because when we walked it, it was tough.
it's, yeah.
And now would be a much better time to at least clear part of it.
Right, right. I could go in and do that initial flagging, which is minimal clearing, like no clearing of logs or anything else.
Right.
Just so you can walk the
Walk,
trail,
right.
because you know, from having walked it, I would not send anyone around that pad.
Right, so the initial clear is just to be able to.
Just
allow
to be able
people
to
in there
walk
to help
it.
clear.
Right, right. The second clear is the one that's gonna take some time, and that's the 6 foot by 8 foot corridor clear. Will take some actual effort and motorized.
Does Bill need approval? Should he notify you when he's going to do it? How does that work?
Oh, I think as long as the board is okay with the scope of work and the plan, I looked into what is required right now. The fact that the property is not open to the public, but as long as authorized representatives, you know, as acting as a volunteer and supplement to the Parks and Rec Commission, if we can have that, I can add a blanket insurance coverage policy and have them sign off on a waiver. That's what we would do as far as the process. And I would keep a roster of the volunteers, and then as long as you can coordinate with me on the days to get that done, I'm okay with that. That would be fine. Okay.
So you need anything else from us, Bill?
No, do you want me to notify the board when I initially flag the trail?
You'd want to notify Erica.
Erica?
I know personally, I would like to.
Walk it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once
Once
you
I
have
flag it,
plan.
I'll notify Erica.
Yeah, that would be good. Get a better lay of the land and.
Take a walk on it.
Okay.
That's the point where we could make revisions to it, if somebody says.
Sure,
I
absolutely.
really don't like this, or I'd really like that.
Right.
We can make a change to it.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing.
What about tools for clearing
Well-
other equipment?
Standard hand tools are primarily used. We don't use any power tools, with the exception of the corridor clearing where we would use clippers, basically gas-powered edge clipper.
And chainsaws.
And chainsaws.
Yeah.
So I guess my question is, are the volunteers expected to bring them home?
No, last year, I out of the park and rec budget, I had Erica buy about 18 hand tools that are used specifically, McLeod's and things like that are used specifically for trail construction. They're basically firefighters' tools. They're made to clear ground quickly. And so we have those. So if anybody has, when we put out the call for volunteers on a specific day, heavy boots, gloves, if you have a pickaxe or a rake or a fire rake, that'd be a welcome addition, but no, we're not gonna require everybody to have their own. And those tools are pretty specialized. The tool used for bench cutting the side of a hill, that's a pretty specialized tool. I don't think anybody's gonna have that.
Natural Lands did conduct on-call for volunteers to get some of their reserve trails done, as I understand it.
How did it work out?
There's a group that is very energized about it. So.
Yeah, we sometimes have, for new trails, we sometimes have 40 people show up. Now, that's state level, obviously, we have bigger reach, but we've had 40 people show up for groups. They'd be divided into smaller groups. We don't have, because you're swinging sharp implements, we divide them up into groups of 4 or 5 and spread them out.
And you're leading that team.
Actually, some of the people from the group up at the DCNR offered
Great,
to
okay.
come in and be like a zone manager. We
Yeah.
normally spread people who know what they're doing out one with
Exactly,
each
yeah.
group. So that, because obviously, if you
Right.
don't know,
What am I doing?
what am I doing exactly?
Willing to help and
So
serve,
I did
yeah.
get some offers of help when I said I was gonna be doing this public trail.
When you when you get ready to set the date, use the website, get
Oh, yeah.
volunteers.
Yeah,
And Facebook,
exactly, sure.
Twitter.
Any questions for her?
Any other questions on the trail? All right.
Thanks for all
Thanks,
your
Bill.
work.
All right, that's it. Okay.
Any comments? The National Lands is okay with everything so far?
Yes.
John?
Not about the trails particularly, but I drove up there about 2 weeks ago or a month ago and noticed broken windows, like vandals throwing stones around. And I would suggest that we put some kind of security camera on the road, or a light that goes on, or something that may slow that down.
We're on it, thank you. It is a problem.
We actually
Yeah.
were looking at a fence, but yeah.
Thank you, John. Any other comments? Seeing none, we'll return to the agenda. If I have it right, number 4 is 1009 Jenny Lane, reverse subdivision.
I move to approve resolution 12-2019, 1009 Janie Lane reverse subdivision.
I'll second the motion.
This comes with conditions on satisfying different things from Arrow and Cedarville.
Correct, it does. It's a pretty straightforward lot line change essentially, and the applicant is here this evening. Mr. Canavy, how are you?
Good, how are you doing?
Good, good. All right, and if there's any questions, it has been reviewed.
Do you care to tell us what you're doing? Or?
Well, I was just trying to move the lot line. There was 2 existing lots there, and one was less than an acre, the other one was over 2. And there was nothing I could do with it, and I didn't think this process would be as painful to do. Yeah, to remove just a simple lot line and make it one big lot, because there's nothing I can do with that.
I don't think we have any objection, and the planning commission did not
They're
have
fine.
it. So, any comments from the audience? Then aye. We have a motion.
We have a second.
We have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Good luck.
I have one more question. I'm looking at the engineering bills on just to take this reverse subdivision. They had over 25 hours dedicated to this. I still don't have a clear answer. Why is there so much time? Zoning officer has 8, 11 hours. Arrow has 14
I
hours.
can't answer that.
And I still don't have a clear answer with it, why it takes, just to move a simple lot line, when I own both parcels, why it takes so much time.
Okay, we can talk.
I know we talked about it, but I still don't have a clear answer why.
Erica's gonna try to work on that.
All right, well, thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah, can you find out what's involved in doing that, or doing whatever he had done? The details behind it?
And did you mean with the intent of letting us know?
Or at least letting them know. I mean, if you get the work paper, whatever,
I'd
Brian,
like
or
to
whoever
know
did
too.
it. Yeah, I wouldn't mind myself,
That's why I mean.
but he's no more important than us. He's one
If I knew it was gonna be that long, then I would have left it alone. Yeah, so, I appreciate it.
Good luck with your project.
Thank you.
Next, we have the road material bid award. Bernie, you wanna work on this one?
I'll make a motion to award the 2019 road materials contract to Cedar Hollow Recycling at the amount of $74,770.00.
Second.
Very good. Are we doing any better getting more bidders on stuff like this?
We sent direct mailings to at least 12 vendors. Put this out on website, sent it to, all of our contacts within the Public Works Department as well. But we have one bid to look at and evaluate. We were looking at two-way stone and hauling and disposal of dirt, which has been really difficult for us. This is material on an as-needed basis, or material meeting the stone and then the hauling of the dirt on an as-needed basis. And we give estimates so that we can at least have a vendor commit to a certain amount for us based on the contracts we're looking at and improvements for the roads. Our roadmaster presently is working on some more creative solutions regarding the dirt. And while we do that, we can at least award the bid as a contingency situation. So we're looking at some ways to find some people that may be interested in the material here and there, not entirely bid situation, but right now, for just the projects we have, it would be on an as-needed situation.
I have a question. We were looked at doing it ourselves, the haul and dump.
Yes, we have.
It doesn't make sense?
It can, based on the vendor, if they're, we had a situation last year with one vendor who gave us a really good price. They did not bid, we found them after the fact, and they could take some of the material, we delivered it, but it's just less efficient, but we have, certain jobs, so we're trying to make do.
And we have
best
to find
can.
it where to dispose it, that's the
Yeah.
whole problem.
Yes, very true. So what we're looking at here, in terms of Cedar Hollow's bid, for the price delivered, at least for the stone, it's looking at approximate tonnage of 2,500 tons, and that is a total price of $40,750. And they did bid on the hauling and disposal of dirt, which they did not last year, and that would be at the unit price of $18.90 per ton, and that brings it out to $34,020 for a total, based on the delivery, of that $74,770, which is the maximum there. When we looked at last year, the stone is up about 7%, and then we had one vendor last year, Britain Industries from Philadelphia, who they were very expensive, so at that time we rejected that bid. So,
If I'm not mistaken, I believe we've been told several times that in the past bidding, has not included any concrete.
we had crushed concrete on this bid last year and previous years. We removed it this year.
I guess, well, supposedly we don't use concrete at all on our roads, do we?
We don't very often.
Say that
No,
again?
We do not use it very often, that is correct. But we had it for the pricing.
Okay.
Yeah.
The reason I say that, I travel Beaver Hill Road fairly frequently, and it just seems to be, you know, a fair amount of white aggregate in there, and I don't think,
Okay.
I'm just curious.
Okay. Okay.
Any comments from the audience? Brian?
Matt, wanted, second one came up in the discussions. How is our, I'm gonna say, consumption of materials going? I would say, from last year to the year before? Are we increasing our road material use or not?
Last year, well, in 17, we used about 1,700 tons of stone. Last year, we used 5,300 because of Flint Road, particularly.
Okay.
Yes. Dirt has been around that 1,800 mark over the past few years. And it is certainly, you know, we are evaluating what projects are we prepping for year to year. We want to get in front of our situation, you know, with prepping roads and replacing pipes where we can. And so it does fluctuate. So we take on a project and we're doing that work. We're trying to evaluate the cost effectiveness of the township providing that time and investing in it versus having a contractor do it, so.
Which kind of rolls into the next thing. I have not looked at the bid request this year, but in years past, we always, you know, for years it went the same standard tonnage every year after year. How are we doing on the estimates versus what we actually use? Are we potentially going to go and change our estimates in the future?
We may, yes. Yes, I think we may, especially the fact that we have a new roadmaster. So we're gonna look at that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll go to the vote, gentlemen. All those in favor? Aye. Next. Erica, we're accepting the resignation of David Niedermeyer.
Correct. That is right after road
Yeah,
paving.
that's after we're on the 6th.
Oh, come on.
Well,
Sticklers for
materials
details.
paving.
You're just trying to get this over with.
Well, I crossed it off, that's why. Authorized bids for the road paving program 2019. Is there a motion?
No, there's no motion.
Oh,
Right, or is there, am I missing something?
No, you're not. It's not in
Oh, there's not in there? I move to approve the authorization to bid for the road paving program 2019.
Second motion.
Any questions from the audience? Brian? You gotta be getting tired about now.
That's how he gets his exercise.
It gives me exercise, I don't want to be too sedentary. Do we have a list of the roads we're going to be,
sure, I can go through that. We are looking at a section of Kimberton Road, Art School Road, South Beaver Hill Road, French Creek Road, the paved portion north of the bridge, and Dewey's Lane, the section that is gravel, and turning that into a completely paved road. It is just about 1.6 miles of paving. We're looking at doing pulverization for the paving, in addition to pipe replacement within the paving. The estimate for those roads right now is just under $900,000. It's significant, but also we very much committed this year to try and tackle and get at least 4 miles overall of roads treated in addition to the chip seal this year. We are looking at conducting a lot of survey, the second part of Kimberton Road, at a much greater length of it, for drainage improvements that are very significant. Schoolhouse Lane, the phase 2, I know we mentioned that. We still have Janie Lane and Buttonwood Bridge out there, which are really important projects. But this would use a combination of our liquid fuels, general fund, and our capital fund to get done, so.
at the last meeting, I think it was the last meeting, I asked about paving the parking lot.
And that is on the list too, and hopefully, we have estimates for that, that does not have to go out to bid and be part of a prevailing, situation. So we got estimates for that, I'll have that for the board here soon.
Okay, and the other one is Black Horse Road at both ends. Many years ago now,
Okay?
they put down, I'm gonna call them braking pads, they've got a short distance of paving. And I've noticed this year, it's starting to break up.
Okay.
And, you know, maybe think about looking at those. And on John's Road, Beaver Hill, the way the paved road comes into it, I don't think would apply.
Okay.
But if there's other dirt roads where you have a dirt road going into a paved road, having paving, I'm gonna say it's maybe 200 foot. So that when they're braking, you don't go and get the stutter bumps,
The
et cetera.
transition,
What's that
the
again?
transition?
Yeah.
You could
It
call
does
it
make
transition.
sense.
Yeah,
Because the potholes come right at the end where it changes.
Okay.
where you're braking and the road develops waves.
Yeah, okay.
And, you know, it got a lot better after they put them in on Black Horse Road. And that's why I've noticed that, hey, we're starting to break up and crack there, you know, get ahead on it. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Just for the audience sake, don't you think we should because we didn't have handouts on this, what the estimated costs are?
Sure, I can go through
Can we
that.
turn-
897,000.
Individually,
No.
we're talking about 5 paving projects. Kimberton Road in the neighborhood of 158,000. Art School Road in the neighborhood of 141,000. South Beaver Hill in the neighborhood of 203,000. French Creek in the neighborhood of 156,000. And while we're on that, I assume that's on the other side of, it seems high for that short span of road.
Yeah.
Oh, it's 2,374 feet.
Yeah, I'd like
South
to-
Beaver Hill is 2,800. So the price per is not that far off.
It just, I could be wrong, it just seems like it's not shorter than 2,300 square foot or linear feet
Yeah.
to that. That's where we replaced the culvert.
Right.
All right, it's that long.
Is it that long?
Yeah.
Yeah. And Dewey's Lane at 57,000. You got an email from me yesterday or today, there's something missing on this report.
I know, Jane Lane.
Janie Lane. We
Jane
have-
Lane, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just can't say it enough, that road is the worst road in the township because of, I mean, just driving by it, I'm embarrassed. And I'm sure there's 2 or 3 cars in that ditch that we haven't found.
And there's
I
a
know.
new ditch.
And
There's a new ditch this week.
Yeah.
So I don't know how we get this on track, but and I understand that PennDOT is part of the biggest reason for any delay, but
Well, there's a significant invoice in the bills list for design.
Say that again?
There's a significant invoice for Janie Lane in the bills list because that was the direction, and we hear you. The preliminary design is done, and we need to work out how far, because it's narrow there, and we need to get that water off the road properly and pave from the top section. So there's a few areas, we just need to make sure the property owners are okay with moving a few things, so.
we've been talking about this for 2
I know.
years, almost 2 years. It's gotta be done.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're down to single lane now on Janie. You have to pull into a driveway to
Let
let
somebody
cars
else
come
by.
past you. You cannot pass
Actually,
two
Bishop
cars.
Tim State is to drive up and down it too.
I'm a single lane on my road, how about you?
Yeah, me too.
No.
But if you pull up into the road, you'll fall into the ditch.
Yeah, you can't.
If there isn't a driveway, you're in a heap of trouble.
Because the road is so crowned.
My driveway's still dirt, so like, I'm not the anti-dirt road person by any stretch.
So we're just authorizing the bids. When's the deadline for them to respond?
Well, we're still working on that. Once you have the authorization, we'll have those dates together. But projected right now in having that together, the end of May.
And When are they gonna be open? Are they gonna be open at a public meeting, or are they gonna be open in the office and then presented to a public meeting?
In the office, we've been typically doing that and presenting it, so we can vet them.
And when do you think that'll take place?
June for an award.
Okay, gentlemen, anything you need to know? All those in favor?
Aye.
Let me guess, where are we?
We're
Accept the resignation of David. Erica, you want to read that again?
Oh, sure. Well,
We need a
Reese-
motion for that?
did you have a motion?
There's a motion.
Yeah, just to accept the resignation, that's all.
I move to accept the resignation of David Niemeyer as zoning hearing board RA.
I'll second the motion.
Any questions from the audience? Seeing none, all of those in favor?
Aye.
What's the procedure to replace an alternate?
We will just advertise. We'll advertise, we have, that position is available if anybody wants to learn more about zoning and the zoning hearing board process. We do need alternates. Conflicts happen, so.
Next is public comment on non-agenda items. Jane?
I figure since we're on the topic of roads,
What's that?
I said, I figure since we're on the topic of roads previously, Erica, whatever happened after yours and Brian's visit with Black Horse Road?
Well, I think there could be some improvements there. Unfortunately, that project got approved when it happened and released. So it takes resources. So it is on a list.
Okay.
It's just a matter of finding that to do it in line with everything else we have going on. But that meeting was helpful, and thank you for going through everything with me.
Sure, because I know, especially with the weather we've had in the past year.
The drainage.
The drainage,
Yeah.
and my one neighbor has to shovel his driveway
Yeah.
every time we get storms.
Yeah. Mhm. Okay, thank you.
Harry?
As some of you know who are interested in the amphibians, they are really hard to predict. And I asked Mike to close the road one time, and about 6 people came out, and they helped 24 baby amphibians go across the road. Evidently last Friday, when I wasn't here and didn't call for any protection, I've been told that there were a whole lot of critters jumping across the roads. And Kim White, who's my guru on amphibians, has decided that this year's migration is essentially over. I have no idea. It was a much smaller migration than usual. The pond at the end of where Hollow Road goes into Horseshoe Trail has gotten much more filled in. And so it's quieter there too. So I don't know whether this has to do with the filling in of the pond or natural cycles or the kind of diseases that they're finding that are happening in a lot of frogs and such. So that's my report about the amphibians for this year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll try again next year.
Any other non-agenda items? Yes.
Jim Burke. I was wondering, what is the status of Locust Corner and the project, the Toll Brothers project? I noticed that advertising single-family homes. What's been actually approved for the corner there? At Weatherspoon?
The Hankin Group, rather?
Talking about 401 and 100, or up
Yeah,
over the
401
hill?
and 100 there.
That's Hankin, and
Is
that's,
that Hankin?
right now they're doing the Wawa.
Okay.
That's what they're clearing for. the
But there are no
Wawa.
single-family homes?
Toll, it's
single family.
in Upper Euclid.
Upper Euclid, Toll Brothers is building over the
Okay,
hill.
I saw the sign in the corner, I got
Oh, okay.
confused.
All right.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Any other non-agenda items?
I move to adjourn.
Second. He's quick. All those in favor? Thank you all for coming. Maria, I knew you were gonna say something.